French President Emmanuel Macron has declared a formal end to France's 8-year military operation against insurgents in Africa's Sahel region. The latest French troops left their base in the Malian town of Gao in August. The mission was launched in 2014 to combat armed groups in the region. Cullen has more from Paris.
On board a French naval helicopter carrier stationed off the southern French coast, the president brought an end to France's 8 years of fighting in the Sahel region of West Africa. And that area is a loosely governed vast expanse of scrubland stretching from Mauritania in the west to Chad in the east. And the aim of Operation Barkhane was to disrupt and dismantle armed groups operating in the southern Sahara, to combat the spread of terrorism and to train the militaries of the 5 Sahel countries to fight it. Along with Mauritania and Chad, the operation took in Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso. Emmanuel Macron said on Wednesday that France did not intend to remain indefinitely on operation, adding that our interventions must be better time limited. The new French military strategy in Africa will be finalised by next May after consultations with partner countries on the continent. France currently has 3,000 troops in the region, down from a high of 5,500 at the peak of the mission. More than 50 French soldiers were killed during the operation, along with thousands of armed fighters. Cullen, SABC News, Paris.
Well, for some reaction, we're now joined by Congolese author and independent analyst Hubert Kabasu Babu Katulondi. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. Welcome to the program.
Well, thank you very much, and warmest greetings to your viewers.
So, Operation Barkhane finally over. Does that leave a vacuum in terms of fighting insurgents in the Sahel in particular?
No, not at all, because French President Macron underlined the fact that there will be about 3,000 soldiers, French soldiers, who will still be operational in the Sahel region, from Chad to Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, and to Mauritania. However, the scope and the mission, in terms of the definition of a strategy and reorientation of operations, there will be some new modalities that will be defined by both the French and the authorities in all these countries.
All right, so a reduction, significant number. What can 3,000 troops do over such a vast area?
Remember that the Barkhane mission was operational in all these different countries, but you have countries like Chad that has quite a strong army with a very robust air force. And also remember, you have about 14,000 troops of the UN based in Mali, and also the army of Mali, which is getting stronger. They acquired a lot of combat helicopters from Russia, and also they subcontracted these Wagner sort of a professional, quote unquote, soldiers from Russia. So, the 3,000 soldiers of Barkhane, or the residual forces of Barkhane, will be there operating in conjunction with the armies of these different countries, which have also tried in the last months to acquire, to enrich their own national arsenals.
Does this represent a resetting of the Franco-Afro relations, as particularly when we start to see Russian influence, Russian military playing an increasing role in the region?
Not really. The FrancoAfro that was built by the so-called Réseau Focard since the late 50s, the 60s, the 70s, is really entrenched and has roots deep in most of these countries, that were colonized by France. We observed the erosion of the influence, the French influence on some of these countries for example, in Central African Republic, where the Russians are now in mining and agriculture and many other operations. But you have to remember that, for example, in Mali, the French had something like 6,000 expatriates. So the relationship is there, but it seems to be a transposition or some kind of extrapolation of West-East sort of confrontation, this sort of new resurgence of the Cold War. And the French also were sort of victims of antagonisms in Mali, where they were rejected. A lot of demonstrations. The people didn't want French soldiers to stay there. They went to Niger, and even in Niger, there were lots of violences there, demonstrations. They didn't want the French people to remain there. So it's quite a reflection or transposition of this sort of new Cold War that we are witnessing owing to the invasion of Ukraine by Russia.
So how would you assess France's military operations success in the region in the last 8 years? Has it been able to be effective?
I think most analysts tend to sort of appreciate or evaluate Barkhane on the basis of its own French military operation without taking into consideration the context. You'll realize that what happened to Barkhane and the French troops is almost a similar phenomena that we witnessed in Congo, where you have a lot of troops of UN, and they were accused of not being efficient because people kept on being killed. Innocent civilians were kept on being killed. So the accusation was leveled also against Barkhane in Mali because actually one of the causes of the departure of French troops relates to the fact that while they were there, although in the first mission, which was called Mission Serval, where the French troops literally saved the government of Mali from being vanquished by Tuareg mercenaries who came from Libya. From there, people of Mali applauded the French troops as saviors. But thereafter, when they transitioned from Operation Serval to Operation Barkhane, a lot of people got killed. More people were killed. More youngsters of Mali in poverty-stricken areas, regions of the northeast, joined the Islamists. Many Islamic, jihadist cells were also increasing, expanding in Mali. And so most people said, no, it failed. But you must remember, it failed also in the context, internal systemic context, where you have Mali as a weak state, let me say failed state, that is not capable of, allocating sufficient resources to its own people to the point where one of the consequences is that poverty-stricken youngsters, they will easily join these jihadists. So it is quite a complex situation where you cannot, people cannot just point or blame the French Barkhane as being a failed mission, because the result was also contingent upon the fact that they were operating in a failed state, which is the same case as in Congo, Eastern Congo, where you have got massive or large regions where there's a statelessness prevailing, and therefore it is difficult for UN contingent or any other troops from Kenya or Malawi or South Africa who go there to really vanquish all these Islamists. And it is the same case in Nigeria. So some analysts said it was a failure, but I think you have to have a balanced view, taking into account the extremely complex and difficult context in which the French troops operate.
Will these jihadists and these rebel movements be emboldened, and might we see an escalation in their activity, betting that the local governments just don't have the resources to fight back? Exactly,
resources. But the problem of the issue of, or the problematic rather, systemic problem of resources. It's also related to the failed state, very bad governance, lack of democracy, and lack of development. So these states in which their armies were receiving a lot of help, assistance in terms of arsenal, in terms of equipment, but also formidable Air Force, French Air Force, they combat helicopters and jet fighters. So they won't have that assistance from the French, which was more generalized, more robust when the entire operation was there, and also in terms of intelligence, military intelligence. So now there's a situation of vulnerability, particularly in countries like Niger, which is a very poor country, and a country like Mali, which is economically constrained. For a country like Mali, about 20 million people, a GDP of 19 billion US dollars in 2021. So they are facing a tremendous financial constraint. And also the fact that when the French were there, they were also bringing in a lot of money that was circulating and helping also the people. I think the militias and the jihadists, there are several groups there. You've got Ansarul Islam, Boko Haram. You've got the Islam State in the Greater Sahel. You've got the Jama Nusrat. So it will be a situation as we are observing in Nigeria, where you don't only have Boko Haram and its splinter groups, but we have bandits and expanding, intensifying criminality. So these fundamental challenge of the post-colonial state, as Professor Crawford Young, the late Professor Crawford Young would have said, one of the main fundamental challenges of the post-colonial state, which is not only strengthening its capacity in terms of allocation, in terms of distribution, collection of tax, but the challenge of the post-colonial state of building robust, strong states that can help in protecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of this country. So it's not only in the Sahel, but it's a real challenge even for South Africa when you consider the situation of South Africa's national security in terms of how arsenal of the army has to a certain extent eroded, and also the police is struggling with the worsening of criminality. So it's a major challenge in terms of strengthening the national security of these nations, building robust armies, helping these countries to have sophisticated arsenal required for them to be able to vanquish all these negative, nefarious forces wreaking havoc in these countries.
Hubert, always good talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us and your analysis tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that's Hubert Kabasu Babu Katulondi, who's a Congolese author and independent analyst, speaking to us about the end of Operation Barkhane. The French are pulling their troops out of the Sahel region, leaving a very